Stop and listen right now, because this message did not reach you by accident. There is a reason your heart has been stirred by these words, a reason an old memory may have risen again before you even realized what was happening. Archangel Michael says there is someone from your past who has been carrying a weight they can no longer hide. The pain they caused you did not disappear. The silence did not erase it. The distance did not bury it. And now, in a way that is both uncomfortable and undeniable, regret has finally surfaced. Do not skip this message, because what is being revealed tonight is not just about their sorrow. It is about your healing, your vindication, and the moment heaven begins closing a chapter you thought would remain open forever. Comment "still standing" if you know God has kept you through what should have broken you. There are wounds that never needed a loud enemy to make them deep. Sometimes it was the person who smiled while withholding the truth. Sometimes it was the one who promised loyalty and then disappeared when loyalty mattered most. Sometimes it was the one who knew exactly where your heart was tender and pressed there without mercy. And you have carried that pain in places no one else could see. You may have asked God why they moved on so easily while you were left to gather the pieces. You may have wondered whether they ever felt the sting of what they did. But there is something else you need to know. Heaven never forgot. The silence was not permission. The delay was not approval. A hidden reckoning has been unfolding, and what happens next is important. Type Amen if you believe God sees what others tried to bury. Archangel Michael stands over the memories you were never able to make sense of, and says the past is not as closed as it seemed. There are words that were spoken in haste, doors that were slammed in pride, decisions that looked final but were never truly finished in the courts of heaven. Someone from your past has begun to feel the echo of their own actions. They may call it guilt, or restlessness, or sleepless nights, but it is deeper than that. It is conviction. It is the pressure of truth finally catching up to a heart that tried to outrun it. And if you have been feeling strange emotional waves lately, as if something unfinished is moving beneath the surface, do not ignore this part. A conversation is already forming behind the scenes, and a hidden truth is approaching faster than you realize. You may have spent months, perhaps years, trying to understand why they did what they did. Was it jealousy, fear, pride, confusion? Or did they simply not value what was sacred until it was gone? Keep reading carefully, because the answer is not as simple as you once thought. In many cases, the one who hurt you was fighting their own instability, their own emptiness, their own fear of being exposed. That does not excuse them. It only explains why broken people often break what is beautiful around them. But now, the mirror has turned. They are no longer only remembering you. They are remembering how you loved, how you trusted, how you kept showing up even when your spirit was already bleeding. Comment "I believe" if you know God can bring truth to the surface at the appointed hour. There is a hidden mercy in the way heaven handles justice. God does not always expose everything at once. Sometimes he allows the harvest to ripen first. Sometimes he lets a person sit inside the consequences of their choices until their pride cracks enough for honesty to enter. And that is what is happening now. Someone who once dismissed your pain is being forced to see it from the inside out. The delay in their remorse is not because your suffering was small. It is because their heart had to reach a place where denial could no longer protect them. That protection is gone now. The old defenses are weakening. The excuses are collapsing. And the next revelation changes everything, because the story they told themselves about you is beginning to fail under the weight of truth. I need you to hear this clearly. Your life was not accidentally interrupted. What looked like loss was watched over. What looked like rejection was contained. What looked like humiliation was surrounded by divine restraint. Heaven preserved your dignity, even when others tried to strip it away. That is why you did not completely lose your mind in the middle of the pain. That is why you survived the night when your thoughts were loud and your strength was low. That is why the shame never got to define you. God kept a covering over your name. He kept your destiny from being stolen by what was done to you. And now the person who wounded you is beginning to sense that they touched something they never had authority over. Type protected, if you have seen God cover you in ways you could not explain. But there is more happening than you realize. The regret that has surfaced is not only emotional, it is tied to circumstances. Life has begun to speak back to them. A door they assumed would remain open has quietly narrowed. A relationship they leaned on has started revealing its own cracks. A private fear they buried has become impossible to ignore. They are being confronted by memories of the exact moment they chose themselves over truth, pride over humility, convenience over covenant. And in that confrontation, your face returns to their mind with unusual clarity. Not because they deserve peace, but because God is making them remember what they did before they can pretend they forgot. Before long, what was hidden in their heart will be reflected in their actions. Do not underestimate the power of holy remembrance. There are some people who only begin to understand your value after they lose access to your presence. They thought your kindness was ordinary. They thought your forgiveness meant weakness. They thought your absence would be temporary, and that one day you would still be available to absorb the same damage again. But the season shifted. The line was drawn. The door closed. And now they are confronting a silence that feels heavier than any argument ever did. This is why their regret is intensifying. This is why they cannot fully settle. This is why your name keeps appearing in their thoughts at unexpected moments. Heaven is not tormenting them for sport. Heaven is bringing them to truth. Comment chosen if you know your pain was never wasted. Before we continue, I feel led to share something with you. Over the years, thousands of people have reached out asking for powerful prayers they could pray during difficult seasons of life. That's why I put together a collection of some of the most powerful faith-building prayers I know. These prayers have helped people find peace during anxiety, strength during hardship, and hope when they felt like giving up. The best part is that I decided to make it completely free. If you would like a copy, simply check the link in the description and I'll send it to you. Do not wait until another difficult season arrives. Take it now while it's available and keep it close for the days ahead. Now there is something else you need to know. There is a particular scene connected to this, and it may feel strangely specific in your spirit. An old message, an unread letter, a conversation left unfinished, a memory attached to a place they cannot visit without feeling the weight of what happened. Something is being reopened, not by accident but by design. The sealed thing is loosening. The closed file is being touched again. A line they once crossed is now haunting them, and they can no longer pretend it was harmless. This is why old names, old photos, old places, or even a random mention from the past may suddenly feel charged. The Lord is letting the evidence of memory speak, and if you have been asking for closure, stay until the end, because there is a deeper turning ahead. What makes this moment so powerful is that your healing has already begun before their apology arrives. Heaven is never late. God does not wait for a human to become worthy before he starts restoring the one who is hurt. He begins with you. He begins with the one who was crying in private, who smiled in public, who kept walking while carrying unanswered questions. So even if they never say the exact words you hope to hear, you are not trapped inside their silence anymore. Your peace is not dependent on their timing. Their regret may become visible, but your freedom is already in motion. The chain that tied your heart to their approval is breaking. Type I receive if you are ready to let God release what people refuse to resolve. Still, there is another truth being revealed, and you must not ignore it. Regret is not always the same as repentance. Some people feel sorrow because they lost access, not because they understand the damage. Some people grieve the consequences, not the cruelty. That distinction matters. Heaven is exposing whether this regret is shallow or sincere. and you will know by the fruit. If they return with humility, if they speak truth without defense, if they acknowledge the wound without shifting blame, then that is one path. If they return with confusion, manipulation, or half-truths, then God is simply showing you how far you have come from that old place. Either way, the outcome belongs to Him. The person who once held power over your emotions no longer gets final authority. Comment, "I trust God," if you believe the Lord knows exactly how to handle this. The reason this hits so deeply is because some of the pain was not only what they did, but what they refused to admit. There is a special kind of hurt that comes from being misunderstood on purpose. You knew the truth, but they acted as if your truth was inconvenient. You carried the memory, but they moved through life as if nothing had happened. You waited for accountability, but pride sat like a wall between them, and honesty. Yet walls crack. Bridges that were burned do not remain hidden forever, and now, in the unseen realm, a bridge is being considered again. Not necessarily restored the way you imagined, but brought into the light, so the truth can cross over. Pay attention, because something unexpected is approaching before this season ends. I see the image of old letters being opened in the Spirit. Not always literal letters, though for some of you it may be exactly that. A message, a draft, a note never sent, a conversation reheard in the mind. What was sealed inside emotion is being reopened for examination. This matters because regret does not become meaningful until truth enters the room. And truth is entering. The person from your past is beginning to remember details they once dismissed. Your tears, your warnings, your patience, your loyalty, your final look, the way you stopped begging and started leaving. Those details are becoming impossible to outrun. They are realizing that when you walked away, you did not abandon the connection first. You protected your heart after it had already been mishandled. Type 333 if you believe heaven is confirming a shift right now. There is a hidden confrontation taking place in their soul. One part of them wants to defend the old story. Another part can no longer live inside the lie. That inner conflict is why the regret feels so sharp. It is not just remorse for losing you. It is the terror of knowing they may have forfeited something sacred. They are asking themselves questions they avoided for a long time. Did I go too far? Did I misunderstand them? Did I let my pride destroy what could have been healed? And whether they voice it or not, those questions are becoming louder. God often uses memory as a doorway to accountability. He lets the truth keep tapping until it can no longer be ignored. The next revelation is closer than it appears. You, meanwhile, have been in a strange valley between grief and peace, where some days you feel healed and other days the scar throbs with sudden force. That is not failure. That is healing that still remembers. Do not let the enemy shame you for still feeling what happened. Deep pain does not evaporate just because time passed. But time can become a servant in the hands of God. It can soften the edge. It can reveal what was always true. It can even show you how much strength was required to keep going when no one else understood. And here's the beautiful part. The same place that once felt like a grave for your confidence is becoming ground where wisdom grows. Comment faith if you know God can turn remembered pain into holy strength. Some of you are also sensing that this person's regret is linked to a specific loss they are facing now. An opportunity slipped away. A relationship collapsed. A private confidence shattered. They may not connect all of it to you aloud, but in their heart they know the chain of events began when they chose wrongly in the season you shared. This is why the memory is becoming sharp now. This is why your face appears in their mind when they are alone. This is why they feel uneasy at night, as if someone is standing at the edge of their thoughts, reminding them of what was left unfinished. That uneasiness is not random. It is a mercy. It is the hand of God keeping truth alive until the proper moment. Many people watching this message have been carrying burdens they never talk about. If that sounds like you, I want to give you something special. I created a free prayer guide filled with powerful prayers for protection, breakthrough, peace, healing, and strength. Thousands of believers have already downloaded it and shared how much it encouraged them during difficult moments. There is absolutely no cost. I simply wanted to place this resource into the hands of people who need it most. If you feel led, go to the description and claim your free copy before continuing. One prayer prayed at the right moment can change more than you realize. Now listen carefully, because the next part of this message is important. Do not rush to meet them in your imagination. Do not rehearse speeches you may never need to give. There is a difference between longing for closure and being pulled back into old bondage. Listen carefully. If they come, let heaven set the terms. If they apologize, let their words be measured by humility, not by your hunger to make sense of the past. If they remain silent, let God's silence be enough. Your future cannot be governed by someone who failed you in your past. That is a word for the weary heart tonight. A new boundary is forming around your destiny. A new wisdom is protecting what remains tender. And by the time this season closes, you will see why the delay was necessary. Type Amen if you are ready for God's order over emotional chaos. I need to tell you something very specific. The person who hurt you may soon be placed in a situation where they must speak your name in truth. A conversation may happen with someone they respect. A memory may be brought forward by a person who knows part of the story. A situation may expose what they kept hidden. It will feel like heaven is shining a quiet light into a sealed room. They will not be able to keep avoiding the weight of their choices. And this matters because many times before a confession can reach you, it must first reach them. They have to see themselves clearly before they can come toward you honestly. Otherwise, anything they offer would only be another mask. Keep reading because there is a final turning you need to hear. The storm that surrounded this old pain is not permanent. I see dawn breaking after long rainfall, and the ground is muddy, yes, but alive. What once felt ruined is becoming a place of renewal. You may never return to the exact same relationship, and that may be the mercy. But what you gain instead is something deeper: clarity, freedom, and the end of confusion. No more wondering if you imagined the wound. No more replaying every detail trying to prove your own memory. No more giving your heart to someone who only learned your value after loss taught them your name. Heaven is vindicating you. Heaven is speaking over the accusation, over the misunderstanding, over the dismissive smile, over every moment you were made to feel too sensitive when you were simply wounded. Comment "God is working" if you believe vindication is already in motion. What comes next may surprise you, because regret can open the door to either confession or distance. Sometimes a person who finally feels the weight of what they did chooses honesty. Sometimes they choose to stay away because the shame is too strong. But even that distance will not mean the story is unresolved forever. It means God is still working in layers. It means the healing can continue whether or not they return with the exact apology you hoped for. Yet for many of you, there is an approaching moment where words long withheld will finally be spoken. Not perfectly, not perhaps in the timing you would design, but enough to tell the truth, enough to admit the damage, enough to show that what you endured was real. Stay until the end, because the reason for the delay is about to make sense. There is a crown of peace waiting for the one who endured this season without becoming bitter. Bitterness tried to take root. Pride tried to tell you to shut your heart forever. Fear tried to convince you that every bond would end in betrayal. But you are still here, still open enough to believe in healing, still wise enough to guard your soul, still tender enough to care, but no longer blind. That is growth. That is victory. That is the evidence that the enemy did not get the final word. And if someone from your past is now regretting everything they did, then let that be one more sign that heaven kept record of your tears and will not waste a single one. Type chosen again if you know your tears were counted. Now I want you to breathe, because this is the part where the weight begins to lift. The old bridge does not control your path anymore. The sealed letter does not define your future anymore. The unanswered question does not own your heart anymore. What once looked like unfinished pain is becoming finished business in the hands of God. There may still be a message. There may still be a confession. There may still be a reveal that changes how you understand what happened. But even if the details unfold differently than you expect, the central truth remains. Heaven saw, heaven preserved, heaven remembered, and heaven is now moving toward closure. Comment I receive if you are ready to let God turn regret into release. And one more thing before this message ends. Do not let the return of their remorse pull you back into the version of yourself that was waiting to be chosen by someone who was not ready to value you. You are not that person anymore. The wilderness refined you. The silence strengthened you. The tears watered a deeper faith. The closed door preserved a better future. Whatever happens in the coming days, you are being led forward, not backward. This is not the hour to doubt what God has already secured. It is the hour to stand still long enough to see the hand of heaven complete what people could not finish. If this word touched your spirit, comment, "My time is coming," because your healing, your clarity, and your vindication are closer than you think. Before you leave, remember that my free prayer collection is waiting for you in the description below. Thousands of people have already downloaded it and used these prayers during seasons of anxiety, uncertainty, spiritual battles, and breakthrough. I made it completely free because I want every believer to have access to powerful prayers when they need them most. If this message encouraged you today, make sure you claim your free copy before you go. And if this message spoke to your heart, subscribe to the channel, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and leave your prayer request in the comments so this community can stand with you in faith. May God bless you, strengthen you, and guide every step ahead.